Welcome, 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 ladies and gentlemen, to the final day of National Small Business Week, where we are celebrating it by going live every day this week. We've been talking about the 5 Cs: culture, capacity, capability, capital, and then tonight we'll be talking about compliance. We'll be talking about not only vendor compliance, but we'll be talking about government compliance. Stay tuned. We'll get started in just a few minutes. Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see you. It's Friday. Thank God it's Friday. Let's go, let's go, let's go. Thank you for joining. Welcome to the last day of National Small Business Week. We were going to go to tomorrow, but we were just going to do a recap tomorrow. So I decided we can crunch all of that into today. But I'm joined by my amazing co-host and facilitator, Lori Smith. How do I sound, Lori?
Sounding great.
Oh, good, good, good. How are you?
I'm well. How are you doing today?
Good. I'm so glad you could join us. I know you were doing many things. This sister right here, my Air Force retired veteran senior enlisted contracting leader with many distinguished years in the Air Force under her belt. And then after that, she joined the second best organization, the Department of Veteran Affairs, as a contracting director, where she was in charge of the community care network. And if you don't know what that is, that's when VA doesn't have medical facilities or care near where a veteran is located. Lori was responsible for making sure that those contracts with those community care network providers were done in an outstanding way to prevent any gap in vendor or veteran health care. In addition to that, Lori, during her, how many years was it, Lori? Did you do 25? How many years did you do?
I did 23 years.
Okay, I was trying to give you a few more, girl, because
Yeah.
you just have a heart of service, just because you have a heart of service. But Lori was also responsible for the major new hospital, Fort Belvoir, a huge major hospital down there in the Alexandria, Virginia area. Managed that contract while she was um, transitioning in between her military time and her time at VA. Lori, did I miss anything? Happy Friday. Hey, Tara, how are you? Thank you for joining. Good to see you. And welcome to everybody.
Nope, you didn't miss anything.
I didn't miss
Nope, you
anything.
didn't say it all.
Not
Apologize for the vacuum cleaner in the background.
Oh,
I'm
no
trying to get
worries,
ready
girl.
for this wedding.
Oh my God. Well, I definitely understand. Let me tell you, Lori is not only a tremendous veteran, and y'all know how I feel about that. And then she served again in the VA, but she's working on her doctorate. She's has her own business, and she also is an adjunct instructor with management concepts, and is launching an inaugural training program for acquisition professionals. And she is helping with a wedding of a family member that's being hosted at her house. So you know how we do it. We can juggle about 15 balls, and Lori doesn't even break a sweat. And we're working some special stuff together. So stand by. You will get that in a few minutes. But I do want to welcome everybody. Welcome LinkedIn. Welcome Facebook. Welcome YouTube. Welcome Twitter. Some folks are saying, hey, where can we find the video? Y'all have to help me. I think I got 2 YouTube channels out there. I'll try to get them consolidated. But if you follow me on LinkedIn and you go to my profile, hey, Nia, how are you? If you go to my profile, you can just look under my profile and it will show up under the post, and you will be able to view the video later, because every single day has been amazing. We started out at the beginning of the week. Lori interviewed me and got me to tell a few secrets that I don't really tell, but just because I was so relaxed with my sister in service, we had a good time, and I told a few things there. And then the second day, we went into culture, how important it is for us not only to look at the culture of the U.S. Federal government and how we buy, why we buy, and is some of our cultural things needing reform. I just put a post out about a decision that's going to cause I believe, all major acquisitions and government-wide acquisition, the way we approach that and the way we do that to be reviewed. And then, some of those major contracts, while are very efficient for the government, may be a hindrance. Part of that culture, we just do it this way. It's easier. We have to do less acquisition actions. Sometimes can be a barrier to small business. And so, we need to look at our culture, how we buy, why we buy, and can we break that up or make it more feasible for small businesses to win. And then we went into capacity. Oh, before I talk, we also talked about vendor culture, about it not being a culture of entitlement. Yeah. Do you want to say anything on that, Lori, before I move on to capacity?
No, I think a point when we talk about culture, is not so much so we're being mindful of the culture of just the government people and the contracting community, but also when you're looking at your own culture as an organization and what you're establishing, being mindful that everyone is on this brand kit now. I got to go brand. I got to go do this here. Well, your brand is what you have sitting in that seat. So
Hello.
if you're not investing in that brand, again, that becomes an issue. So when we talk about organizational culture, whether it becomes something of entitlement, so the reverse side of that is you accepting or you feeling compelled to, put your staff member and your employees in situations that are not otherwise, healthy. So it becomes incumbent upon both sides, both groups, to make sure that they're sewing and providing the appropriate training, the necessary resources, so that everyone can do what the government procurement process is intended to do.
No,
And is,
so
and,
true.
and is intended to operate in a fair and balanced environment and facilitate an equitable treatment across the board, one side to the other. So when you know rules of engagement, you can assist along the way when you feel that, okay, the government may have not be approaching this right or may not be dealing with me right. So let me, as a point of clarity, hey, per this regulation or per this guidance and this policy, could you please, just share with me? So it's learning how to, even cultivate and develop that culture without it being
Yes.
contentious or combatant.
I think that's so powerful, because it's really about being a partner with the federal government, not it's you against the vendor against the government, or the government against the vendor. I think this is very prevalent in the Department of Veteran Affairs, where small businesses, specifically veteran-owned small businesses, are coming together to join in the care and services of our nation's veterans. And that's a good point for me to back up a little bit and do a little bit of admin remarks. I am GI, aka Michelle Gardner-Ince, but GI is a first name, last name, noun, verb, adjective. And I tell people, if you worked for me back when I was in the military, on a bad day, it might even been a cuss word. I'm just saying. So, but day to day, I work for the Department of Veteran Affairs in the small business office. But I want to make sure that everything that is said here, either by myself or others, are no reflection of the Department of Veteran Affairs. And we advise you to gain. It's not the opinion of the Veteran Affairs. It is my opinion. I'm not giving away no secrets unless it's about me. In fact, I don't know any secrets. I think that's part of the blessing of what I do. I just want to help, and I don't have to worry about not saying nothing, because I don't know nothing, at least not about procurements. And we do want you to know that the opinions of folks that come on, that put information in chat, it is their own opinion. And we do ask you to definitely check, verify the information you hear on this platform, and then make a decision for yourself. We are so blessed to have many of the experts, quote unquote, that come on here are accomplished, have their own business, but yet have a generosity for the small business community, and come and share freely, and are extremely generous. And so, we ask you to put your name and information in the chat, so that we will display it on the screen, because you just never know when somebody might be reviewing this and go, they are exactly what I need. I need that product, I need that service, or I need to join with them to win on this effort, and we'll reach out to you. This particular platform came about. We started it in January of 2022 when LinkedIn launched its LinkedIn audio. And, I was one of the beta testers, and I said, you know what? I'm going to use it to demystify government contracting, to give small businesses, specifically um, uh, underserved communities and underutilized communities, an opportunity to ask questions and to be safe and vulnerable and get information in real time as they need it. And so that's how we got here. And then once we decided to, have National Small Business Week, we said, hey, let's not just broadcast on Wednesday, but let's broadcast all week. And so we started on Sunday, and then we're going to finish up today. So I then want to wrap back to, we finished the first C, that was culture. Then we talked about capacity, didn't we, Lori? Do you want to jump in on that before I go to the next one?
Yeah, absolutely. When we talked about capacity, what we was really saying is that, hey, do you have the capacity to do the work that you are, proposing and bidding on? And then also, and that means, do you have the any kind of, who do you need to hire? What resources are available to you? And as you go along, as you continue to recap, what you should find is that common theme is that all several of these concepts and these C's overlay one another, and so they intertwine. So, and that is great because we're not doing anything that's outside the circle. But capacity also is about you being mindful as small businesses when you're seeking opportunities with the government, is that that, hey, I can't do everything. So if you over solicit or you over respond, and man, what if you just all everything is aligned and you get every award? Can you meet the terms, and can you respond, and can you comply? So with capacity, we talked about a lot of things, but it really about whether or not you had the wherewithal, the ability to do what it is that you are proposing to do, and just making sure whatever you communicate to the government that you can do, they're going to have that expectation that you do it, especially if you win. So let's make sure we understand that.
Absolutely. Yeah. In general, the federal government is risk averse. They want to make sure, first of all, acquisition professionals don't want to lose their warrant. That is their ability to award contracts up to a certain amount. Some people have unlimited warrants, like, people like Lori and others. When you get to certain senior levels or manage certain kinds of programs, you get an unlimited warrant. But the point is, nobody wants to have their warrant in jeopardy because they awarded a contract for something, products and services. There was no need. We just needed to get rid of money at the end of the year. So let's just, find something to spend it on, and that does happen. But we really are, what I'm really trying to say is, like Lori said, when you are asked to come and serve from serve your products and services to the government, and the government says, I want to buy from you, you need to be able to deliver, in fact, over deliver. The best way to increase and scale your business and grow is to over deliver and give more than what's required. And then they say, oh my God, that was excellent. You were tremendous. How can I figure out and give you more business? Then the next one we talked about was capacity, right? We had did we just talk about capacity, or did we talk about capability, Lori?
And then we just talked about capacity, so the next
Okay.
one would be capability.
Okay. Go ahead. Go ahead and jump in, and I'll follow.
Well, even with capability, capability is actually similar to capacity.
It
Capacity is
is.
making sure you have the resources and everything in place to include startup capital, which we're going to talk
Yes.
about next. So that's
Yes.
the aspect of capacity. But when we talk about capability, is really, can you show up as who you said you were? And
Yes.
for too often, sometimes, small businesses as well as large businesses, but small business, and I'm talking about what I've witnessed and experienced. Sometimes when you're doing that post award orientation, you get everyone around the table, and sometimes the small business look as though they are not familiar with their own proposal. And so that's a warning sign, and government do, especially that program office and that core and the end user, they pick up on that. But if it's who you are, it's who you are. And so our hope is that whatever you communicate, that's who you show up as being, and that's what you do.
Absolutely. I'm laughing because, the immediately when you said that, I thought of the deer in the headlight. Like, oh God, somebody else prepared this, and now I've got to do what? Yeah, you got to do it. And what I tell vendors is, most of these contracts they want you to start in 31 days. That means if you need a facility, if you need to hire, you need equipment, you got to have benefits, all that stuff ready to go. And that's why you can't get ready once you get the contract. You have to be ready. That's part of your capacity. Another way, and capability, another way to expand capacity and capability is by hiring 1099 employees that have specialized skills that will allow you to bring that particular value to the government. And the other thing I do want to say is that when we're talking about capacity and capability, we also have to look at it on the government side. Sometimes the reason there are these large acquisitions is because the capacity and the amount of acquisition professionals that would be needed in order to execute that number of acquisition actions is too much. And so there's what do they call it, there's efficiency in having uh, large larger acquisitions, right? And then we also have to look at capability. We can't always assume that the contracting officer or the program manager or the core are experts in the products and services that they're procuring from you. Sometimes there's a need, sometimes they may be the person that's procuring it for someone else. And so we have to understand who we're talking to when we're, talking to and engaging with government, that all of that capacity and capability to understand those very detailed, technical kinds of factors about that need may not be all in one person. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. Anything you want to jump in before we go to capital, and then we're going on into compliance, which is our topic
No,
today.
I think you're absolutely correct in that, but also be mindful as well when we talk about capability and capacity from a government contracting perspective. Sometimes the oversight and the magnitude or the complexity of the requirement in and of itself requires them to go larger and go more enterprise wide or more strategic than having multiple entities feed into it. So there's a whole lot that goes into determining a strategy, determining what's in the best interest of the government, but most definitely resources across the board on both sides, as you can see, is something that's also significant and plays a large role as well.
No, I'm glad you said that, because when you said, enterprise wide, and that's one of the biggest, hurdles, is that when we look at economy of scale, as a federal government entity, and we want to achieve efficiencies and buying more across the country, um, a lot of small businesses don't have that wide reach, which is why the opportunity may go large. But then there's a way for you to expand the capacity and capability of larger companies or primes by being a subcontractor. And that's where your certifications oftentimes come in to play. Your woman owned, your veteran owned, your minority owned, and you can bring um, a very important skill set that will open the door for them. But I would like to ask Lori to kind of talk about what we talked about a little bit earlier this week about subcontracting, some of the pitfalls, some of the things that we need to uh, remember when we're going in and approaching larger companies about being a subcontractor, which is a great on ramp to a prime, right? It's a great way to get past performance as a sub before you become a prime. But there are some things we need to make sure you're mindful of. Go ahead, lady.
So, as when you're pursuing any kind of relationship, I mean, ladies, when we're looking for a man, I don't know about you all, but I was at the well for so long, I got specific with my prayer. I needed to show up in the exact form I needed it to show up in. So, there were some
Oh
terms and
yeah,
conditions.
it
I
was
had
winter love.
specified
Wait,
it.
wait, wait, wait. I can't let that pass by. It was winter love. That's what I call it. When you marry after 40,
Oh,
that's
yes.
winter love. You in the winter
Yes.
season, darling.
Yeah, I mean, I was at the well waiting for somebody to be thirsty. I ended up with carpal tunnel holding that picture. But anyway, when we and I like to find these relatable epithets if you have to
It's
gather,
perfect. It's
so
perfect.
that we can be mindful that in any relationship, what you want to make sure is that everyone understands and what each other desire and want, and so there's a understanding of the playing field. And you're asking me to be a part of this right here. So in consideration of this here, these are the things that I need in order for this to work. And then we're respecting the fact that these are the terms and the conditions and the specifications that we agreed to, and then we hold one another compliant. More often than not, are small businesses taken advantage of by some primes? Absolutely. Are some small businesses taken advantage by other small businesses? Absolutely. But the unfortunate part is that we live in a world where people take advantage of other people. And so what we want to do is be the ones that change that narrative and change that, and mitigate that. So you want to be thorough in your agreements that you establish, whatever those rules of engagements. If you want to have them share with you any information the government is providing them, especially if what you do or what you bring to the table is critical to the success of that contract, meaning you're in essence a tier one sub and nothing can happen. If you don't do it, the contract is not successful and they won't succeed. So you want to make sure that you establish those relationships. You want to be copy. You want to see the information. You want to know what you're responding to, and you want to understand, rules of engagements. Are these floor down clauses? The clause said, you're going to pay me 7 days after the government pays you because you're a large business and you're using me as a sub. You're also entitled to the prompt payment based on certain types of requirements. Just check to see what the clauses in your contract are. But you just want to make sure whatever you agree to, when you honor your end and they honor theirs. And if they don't, please, please, please let the Small Business Administration know, let your OSDBU know, let whomever your PCR know, definitely report it to the contracting officer. So, because although the contracting officer will not have previous contract with you because you are not the prime, it's still done. They know that you are doing that work. If they know you're doing that work, they have a responsibility to make sure that that prime is doing right and providing you the appropriate consideration for the effort that you put forth. So don't hold it in and do like several small businesses do and say, oh, I don't want to rock the boat. I don't want to be labeled this and that. That's why we have whistleblower protection rules of engagements, which really falls in the lines of this accountability and compliance C that we're going to talk about later on. But just report it. Make sure you're being treated right. You do right, and make so that you can have a meaningful relationship.
No, I think that's so important. And read the fine print. Story I told earlier this week is about a woman veteran. I, was talking to her and she goes, we're in this teaming agreement. We're not getting any work. I don't understand. We did most of the proposal and I don't understand why we're not getting any work. And I said, well, she said, well, we're supposed to get 10 FTEs, but I see that they're going on with the contract, and they won't take our calls. And I said, well, read, what does it say when you say 10 FTEs? There were two words. It said up to 10 FTEs. Up to is 0 to 10. And now she had her lawyer. I don't know if it was a lawyer that specialized in small business government contracting, and that is important that they be very knowledgeable in this arena. But make sure it says you're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, FTEs as part of that contract, or whatever the part of the contract you're supposed to get. And like Lori said, be at the table. You don't want to hear things secondhand. You want to have yourself or somebody representing your company at that kickoff meeting, at the monthly, quarterly update, where you're updating the government on what you're doing, quality assurance, and you can hear back from them any areas that need to be improved. You want to be in the room, because if it's a team, it's a team, and they shouldn't be trying to hide anything or keep anything from you. Uh, we're going to move on to uh, capital. I'm going to spend real quick. We know it's all about the Benjamins. Really hard to grow without capital. Some people, choose to, take money out of their 401k. Some people do bank loans. Some people, borrow from family. Some people put, second mortgages on their house. But, the reality is, at some point, you may need to get financing. And whether that's factoring, that's where you make an agreement, a contract with a bank or a federal institution or a financial institution or company that basically will pay you so that you can buy equipment, so that you can do payroll. And when the government pays you, the government pays the factoring or the financial institution first, and then you get whatever is remaining of that. And so, all I say is, somebody wants you, somebody loves you. And, if one bank turns you down, go to another one. You got to be diligent. And, like Lori said, she had her list, and you should have your list. And it should be, banking with somebody who understands your vision, who is as vested in your success as you are. And sometimes that's the community, development financial institutions or other banking, companies that are focused on diverse and small businesses. Now we're going to get, did you want to say something before I move on to compliance?
No, I just want to remind, we had a great topic and some great discussion about capital. And so the key is making sure from a business perspective, we're being mindful that our business credit, well, one, being mindful, we need to make sure our personal credit is where it needs to be. Because as a startup, typically, if you don't have the traction as a business, they may lean to that personal credit. So you just want to make sure you are just postured in position for someone to find you desirable to even want to lend money to. And then from the factoring perspective, also be mindful that in the event you go get an agreement or something of that nature, one of the things you can let them know, especially if they're going to finance the whole thing, when that happens, then you go back to the government and you do what's considered a assignment of claims. Whereas then you bring that information in there and they will make sure that as you invoice, those payments are going directly to that company. So there's no, lapse or no delay. It takes you out of the equation as the middle person. And if they agree to doing that, and the government will pay them directly predicated upon your invoicing. So a lot of ways, but the most important thing is just to make sure you look great when you walk into the bank, and even when you're not inside the bank, if they peek out the window, come across your portfolio, you still cute, because you got to look good in order for them to want to help you, and that means making sure you are just in a position to be not a credit liability and or a credit risk, but somebody they want to welcome to their folds. And I think the topic that Stephanie and Coach talked about covering that and being bank ready. I think that was a great conversation they both had.
Oh, that was a tremendous conversation. And you can go back and look on my profile and click on the video and watch it or listen to it, because we've been doing mostly audio only all week. I just happen to have great Wi-Fi today. I don't know why. Friday, thank God it's Friday. So I guess that's why, because otherwise I would have been on audio only. Now we're gonna get to the topic at hand: compliance. Now I have to tell you, came into the federal government almost 12 years ago, and I came to the Department of Veteran Affairs as the director for the Center for Verification and Evaluation. That is the veteran certification program that is now located over at the Small Business Office Administration, or SBA, and it's now called Vet Cert instead of Vet Biz certification. Is called Vet Cert, and you can Google that and you can go see about it. But one of the things that I started, which is mandated in the small business law, and I call it protecting the veteran advantage. And that was one of our goals and taglines. Is I established a audit office within the certification, and what that did was we would show up unannounced at your front door to make sure that you were actually owned and controlled by a veteran. So the veteran certification, even though it's now over at SVA, is around three tenets. And I say it's like a baseball diamond. First base is, are you a veteran or service disabled veteran? Check, you get to first base. Second base, are you at least 51% owned and controlled by a veteran or a group of veterans? Check, you've got that together. Third base is the hardest. People think, oh, I got first base, I got second base, I am good, I ain't got nothing to worry about. Third base is, are you owned? Not only owned and controlled, but are you managed day to day by the veteran who owns the company? Do you sign the leases? Do you sign the contracts? Do you sign the checks of the employees? Are you the highest paid? If not, is there explanation why you aren't? But it is the day-to-day management and undue influence that oftentimes gets veterans in trouble. And this same tenet, that same requirement, applies to woman-owned and minority-owned and veteran-owned and hub zone. And it's all about making sure that you have that certification, and that you, as the primary owner, who is the one who allowed that or enabled that certification, is the one in charge, the CEO of that business day to day. Not that you just got the certification and now somebody else is running it and you don't know what's happening. So when they show up for an audit, they're asking questions. They want to look at files, and that can happen at any time. And I will tell you, a lot of times, yes, it was a random selection about who was going to get selected, but oftentimes there's an OIG hotline, Office of Inspector General hotline. If somebody is your competitor and you're not complying with what I just said, and there's a question as to whether or not you are actually in charge of the company, they can call. And then that triggers an audit. And that's why, Lori, I'll pitch over to you on this part, where we talk about there's a lot of people who are real famous over on that DOJ website. Go on, lady.
You're absolutely correct. Compliance and being accountable is extremely important in government contracting, and then just in life. When, as Michelle was talking and speaking, when we were talking about whatever our size standards are, and a lot of a lot of businesses, they go to these different webinars and these conferences and these workshops and get these different clients, people to work with them, and it's like, hey, what's your social economic status? Do you have a wife? Let's put your wife in charge, and your wife is not doing anything. And so if your wife is not an active member of your organization, if I never hear from your wife, you don't have a woman-owned small business. And I always advise folks, don't tell me your wife is in charge of your organization. If I never hear from your wife, she's never really available to be on the phone for a group chat or anything of that nature, because you do get in trouble for that. Somebody is watching. It is a dog eat dog world. And if someone wants these contracts, and especially with these contracts now getting bigger, they're in the millions and the billions of dollars, they're
Yep.
not going to be nice to you all there. They're doing background investigations on you all while you all over here singing Kumbaya in the field. So people are out doing more research on you than you're potentially doing on that effort that you're applying for, because they are looking to see how can I set the stage so that I can be otherwise considered. So as a
Absolutely.
CEO, we'll get challenges to small business standards. And so we'll send them over to the SBA. We'll get challenges for someone, not being the size standard that they say they are. And then when you misrepresent the truth, just like Michelle indicated, even if you are pass through, and you can go over to the DOJ website, you don't have to take my word for it. You can just Google, pass throughs. How many or small businesses have been jacked on this pass through thing? Whereas in you're just letting a large business use you as a front, and you getting maybe a cut or something, but you're not the one that the government is doing business with. It's someone else. So that's a pass through. The
Mhm.
government is mindful of 10 percenters. Those are people who sell commodities and products to the government that they don't manufacture. There's
Mhm.
rules as to what we do on the backside in order to facilitate executing that contract and giving you that award. So we know you're not the manufacturer. So we requested a non-manufacturer waiver. So we know that part. But and we know you're going to mark things up. That's not what we talk consider the pass through. It's the pass through is when you just have the front. It's not about whether or not you're a non-manufacturer or something of that nature. You're just not doing the work, and you're just being used, so that you can get a contract from the government because of your size standards. Also, when you misrepresent anything, there are so many aside from pass throughs. Again, you can just go over to the DOJ. They are investigating. A contractor just recently got jacked by the DOJ for taking payments and kickbacks and things during a period that was like what, from 2016 to 2015 to 2019. It's 2023. They
I
may,
know it don't take they
yeah,
take a minute. They
exactly.
go back. They go
Yeah, they
back.
go back. You may be doing something wrong now and think you're going to get away with it. Like all of this advertisement, a lot of people been talking about that they 100%. And I really appreciate you putting that out there on LinkedIn today, Michelle. People talking about they 100% subcontract on everything.
Yeah,
You
I
can't do
know.
that. Don't put that
Okay.
out there in the atmosphere, because somebody is listening to you and you're going to be investigated. They may not ring your doorbell this year, next month, or whenever, but they're going to get you. So just be mindful that you got to be compliant, you got to be accountable. And the government, and that's the reason the government is so regulated. The intent and the purpose is to make sure you are being treated fairly, and making sure they're complying with the standards. So the expectation is that you're going to do the same. So just comply with what's required, because you can get in trouble even if
So
you
true.
don't take care of your people. If
So
you
true.
violate those clauses and things of that nature, it can get you in trouble with the government as well.
True. And sometimes the call comes from within. And that's why
Exactly. Oh yes.
I
Mm-hmm.
tell people it's very important you treat people right. Now I know we all make mistakes. Nobody's perfect, but I'm telling you, when you are in business, especially when you start to get to the big dollars, anywhere there's big dollars, there are people that want to take you out so they can be in, right? There are employees who think you making too much money and you didn't give them a raise, and they want to call you out. And this is why I tell people, I said, look, especially ladies, close things up. Like people say, oh, they did so and so and so, and I don't really, I don't know if I can afford to let them go. I said, can you afford not to let them go? I believe in fire fast, hire slow, right? And the
Mm-hmm.
reason is because old fish don't smell better with time. If it's if it's stinky now, it's stinky later, even more stinky. But my point is, I'm my Georgia coming out in me, Lord. but but you all understand what I'm saying. And so when you have to let an employee go, give grace. Give them 2 weeks. If they need to be gone now, Give them 2 weeks of of pay. Just close it. They may not be happy, but at least I call it close those open wounds up as much as you can, and so that that negative vibe is not out there in the universe, because people will talk to other people and it can prevent your hiring, right? And the other thing with compliance is make sure, when you're a sub, a lot of the risk, a lot of the responsibility is passed through to you as the sub. So there's a lot of vulnerability. There's a lot of opportunity there, but there's also a lot of vulnerability there. And so you want to make sure that if you are let's say you're a small and you have a larger company that is your prime, if you are the small and you're the prime, I mean, it's a small, the large company is your sub. If you are the prime, but you're small and you're supposed to be in charge of that teaming agreement, then the administration, the funds, all of that, there needs to be a trail that shows that you were in charge of the teaming agreement or the joint venture. And that's more strict once it comes under the SBA umbrella. But my point is, know the rules. If you don't go on what somebody told you. I just talked to somebody. I said, why are you saying that? Well, that's what somebody told you. I said, have you been to the orientation? Have you been to the training? Have you talked to the people who run the program yourself? If you haven't, trust but verify, because there's a thing that I learned, and tell you how naive I was, Lori. I didn't learn it until I came to the VA, and it's called omission. It's called
Mhm.
omission. I was so naive in my 27 years in the Air Force. I thought everybody told the truth, because you know how Air Force is with service, integrity, service for self, integrity, and excellence in all we do. I took that integrity thing. If somebody told me that something, I believed them. Okay, but I found out after coming to the VA that people will leave out key facts so that you will make a decision in their favor based on the information they gave you. So trust but verify. Ask several people. Don't be ashamed to ask. You can, if I don't know, Lori don't know, somebody we know knows. But you can always DM and ask us, because we want this community to win. And being compliant is important. These things out here, people talking about government contracting is easy. I, if it's easy, something's wrong. Because I'll tell you, when I got out, somebody came to me, oh, Michelle, you're a woman, you're a minority, you're a veteran. Oh, we just need you to go out and get the jobs, get the certification, get the opportunities. And don't worry, we'll pay you $250,000 and we'll do all the work. Why, they making millions? I don't think so. It didn't sound right. I wasn't that naive. It didn't sound right, so I didn't go for it. Because if it don't sound right, if it's easy, beware. Step back. There is no pressure. It ain't, oh, you got to hurry up because it's going to be, we got to have it done by this time. Step back, breathe, go ask a few people. It'll be all right. If it's meant for you, it'll be there. So anyway, go ahead. I know I went on my little tight rant and tirade, Lori, but I really just want people, I want women, veteran, minority, underserved communities to win. And I don't want us to win only to be on the excluded party list. When you hear EPL, that means you are debarred from doing business with the government in the future. And go to
And you,
that website. Go ahead, honey.
yeah, and you are absolutely correct, Michelle. And what I will say is that it is not so much because, like, when you look at surveys, and I mean, they've been doing surveys for several decades now about the underrepresentation of minorities in government contracting. But what I will say is a couple of years ago, I think the NPR posted a story about a survey that they had done with small business. And a lot of minorities businesses and women-owned businesses say that they don't pursue government contracts because they don't understand. And so with anything, sometimes people have this adverse reaction to learning stuff. And so what I will say is that There's a significance and an importance for context. If you understand the context around everything that you're pursuing in the government contracting space, not necessarily you got to know government contracting in and out. That is not it. But you need to have some frame of reference so that you know when you hear wrong, you know when you hear mistreatment, you know when you hear non-compliance, you know
Yes.
when so it's not just something in your lashana na. You just know it's not right, and so you learn to identify ways to remove yourself from the situation and the conversation, even if
Yes.
it's
Yes.
hey, well, let me get back with you.
Yes.
That let me get back with you is just your
Yes.
opportunity to remove yourself from that. But it's very important that you learn it. It is a lot of information. The regulations, the clauses are specific. If anything about labor and people, you're going to go to our part 22 because that's your
Yes.
clauses about how you're supposed to treat people, all the rules of engagements, laws they have as it relates to no fear, trafficking people, EEO, veterans, sexual assault, harassment. All of
Uh,
those clauses, labor clauses, are going to be in FAR Part 22. Even when you want to understand rules of engagements about the small business, you're going to go to 19, and then you go to the CFR. I think is what is it, 213 or 13 or something, to learn what it is I need to know about my small business program and social economics, and not try to consume it all. Just go
there
do
you
the
go.
research for the component that you need to understand at the moment you're approaching it. So understand it to, okay, this is the capacity I'm operating in. So I need to understand, what these limitations on subcontractors are. I need to understand what they say about small business rules of engagement so that I'm smart. And so when people come to me, nobody can tell me, hey, everybody's doing it, or let's do this, because everybody's doing it and I fall for it. You won't put yourself
So true.
in risk like that.
So
When
true.
we talking about the various types of contracts that they do, when we talk about go to 42 if you want to know about administration of that quality, what is that going to look like. And so you want to always find the right part of the FAR that's going to cover a certain entity, so that you can understand it from that perspective, not try to read it all together, but you want to have context. And so, and not give up. There are
Yeah.
rote behaviors that we can do that can produce an outcome and or a similar result. Will not be potentially the same. It won't be the exact same result someone else had, but it could give you a win. The difference may be you may win a different type, a different product, a different amount. But you can win by doing certain rote behaviors, but you also want to understand what you just won, because there's no value in winning and there's no fun in winning when you are not capable, when you don't have capacity, when you don't understand the culture of your own organization, let alone the culture of the government. You have nothing from a capital perspective. You haven't done business standing up and development and posturing yourself so that you can be funding worthy or look good enough that somebody want to lend you a dollar. We have to be all of those things in order for compliance and everything else to work, because that compliance equates to accountability, and overall that's what you have to be in the whole entire process. So don't shy away from it. Just know the race is not given to the swift, but it is given to the one that endured to the end. And if you work this thing out right and
Come
you
on,
pace
preach,
yourself,
sister,
there will
preach.
always be an opportunity for a government contract until such time as the world end, really. Because
Yes.
something is
Yes.
ending, something is new coming along. So um, just let your rush be to learn as much as you can, opposed to get to something quickly and not be prepared.
I love that. This is an open book test, y'all.
Yeah,
Okay? This is an open book test. There ain't nothing new under the sun. And if it is,
exactly.
the government has a mandate to be transparent and tell you about it. So you don't have to know the whole far. Like Lori said, have it, bookmark it, put notes. You can get, I got the far on my phone. Okay? It's an app. You can go to Cornell Law. There's a bunch of them. And you can bookmark it. You can save it. So when you want to go, you can do word search. The information is out there. Trust, but verify everything. And I was trying to find the link that has all of the convictions there, but I couldn't find it. The other thing I want to say is, as a small business, don't be contract rich and revenue poor. Okay, so when you're going into these subcontracting agreements, these companies are reporting that they're doing so much business with small business, with a woman, veteran, whatever the contract requires, the subcontracting agreement requires. So have enough value and belief in yourself to negotiate right. Go and look at the pricing that's out there, the GSA pricing. Look at what the industry pricing is, not just there, because people know it costs more to get somebody in LA, New York, DC than it does if you were somewhere else. So, be very clear about how much it's going to cost you to bid and to make money on that contract. Then, Lori, let's go on and talk about compliance from a government standpoint.
Well, and I do apologize for the helicopters that you all hear in the back. I do live right outside of Hunter Army Airfield, and they're coming in on a nightly run, I guess. But from a compliance from a government perspective, is that everything the government expect you to be in compliant with, they are going to be in compliance with as well. Also, government is going to make sure that from a compliance perspective, the government is also going to be making sure that they are complying with the terms and the conditions of the actual contract. Because in the event that they are not, and you have a situation where the government is asking you to do something that is not specified in the four corners of the document, again, you want to go to that point of clarity, go to that and let them know, hey, could you please advise as to whether or not you desire the service, as is not a part of the existing contract. However, after we looked at it, it potentially could be considered otherwise in scope. However, the effort would have to be added for the appropriate amount or consideration. Now, if you already know what those charges would be, hey, if you want me to do it, I can add it to it for this and all the option years, and this is what this. Here's a quote of it, and please let me know and send over the modification. But otherwise, if they don't pay for it, you ain't got to. I mean, they can't compel you to do it without making an adjustment and giving you that consideration. And so, don't get into the habit of always inclined to please someone, that you start taking on responsibility for what is not covered in the contract. Because once you start taking on responsibility that's not covered in the contract, and you get hurt, or your employee get hurt, or your funds get short because you're doing extra that you get no consideration for. So that little profit, that little whatever you thought you was going to be making on that contract, it's ate up, and now you potentially not even making anything. You underwater because you just doing all of this stuff. Oh, I'll do it, and it costs you. So
Yeah.
just be mindful. Just as you have to be compliant, they have to be compliant, and just make sure that they are. You having to be compliant of those same labor clauses that are in that contract. The government has to treat your people with that same level of respect. As a contractor, it does not mean that they are absolved of being protected by certain rights and for and representation. So be mindful of that, and make sure internal to your organization, as part of your policies, a part of your handbook, that you have, and even training, you've educated your people and prepared
Yeah.
them again to sit in the
Yeah.
seat. There's an
Yeah.
escalation process in your organization that direct communicates to them how to submit concerns, because you just, and always have that active conversation, engage the core, meet frequently with the CO if you can, because you want to establish relationship, but you want to, although you're getting paid, you still want to show up as a good paid partner,
That's
because
good.
that's
That's
going to
good.
facilitate, potential more opportunities or word of mouth. Well, hey, how did this contractor did? Oh, use them, use that. They're great. They're this. And so you just, everything is a part of, once you get the contract, I'm observing you now, and it's all past performance. And so you always want to look good.
Absolutely. And compliance is so important. I was talking to a company at an event a couple of weeks ago, and he was telling me about how a contract was small was set aside as a small, and then something happened, and the government pulled it back, and then it now came out as a large opportunity. And I said to him, well, why didn't you call me? He goes, what? I said, why didn't you call me? In every OSDBU, it is their job to protect small business concerns. It is OSDBU's responsibility to protect small business concerns. We can go and do market research, talk to the program offices, and ask, hey, why did this go from small to large? There's two or more veteran, two or more women, two or more minority, etc., that could do this work. Where is your market research that says it should go to large because there's no small businesses um, available to do the work? We can ask the question. Now, they may not change their mind, but OSDBU, that is our responsibility. So you are our external advocate and accountability partner. That's really what I'm saying. If you see an opportunity and you're like, I know me, so and so and so and so and so and so can do this work, tell the federal government. And the easiest way to tell the federal government is to respond to sources sought, requests for information, and so that we will have the data that shows you have the capability, others have the capability to do the work. If you see an opportunity, go and tell your competitors, because then what happens is you're competing in a smaller pool. You're competing against other small businesses, other woman-owned businesses, other veteran-owned businesses, or other minority-owned businesses rather than large businesses. That's why it's important that you communicate to us and let us know, because it drives our acquisition strategy. And the OSDBU offices are the accountability partners and watchdogs for acquisition strategy and making sure that small business concerns are protected. Anything to say on that, Lori, before we start closing out?
And just as another reminder, Michelle is absolutely correct. And in the event that something occurs, small contractors are also protected by whistleblower rights.
Mm.
So if you, a lot of times we don't want to communicate non-compliance because we are afraid of reprisal, or afraid of how they're going to treat. Well, you're protected by whistleblower rights as well. So I cannot overemphasize the significance of really having a compliance program as an integral part of your organization. So as you're putting together all your other operational frameworks, whether it's training, HR, your financing, your purchasing, have something for compliance, because it's needed. And just make sure you are doing your due diligence and reviewing the respective regulations prior to, even if you have to relook at them again during them. At least you're mindful. It's about awareness. And when you're aware of what the government expects out of you, now you can make sure that you're set up right. Because if you're not set up right, the DOL is going to, Department of Labor, is going to come for you. So you want to make sure you're set up and you're structured right so that you can comply with any other standards, whether it be employee related, security related, cyber IT related. There are a lot of rules and regulations. So you always want to make sure, what do I need to have in order to do business with this client or this customer?
Absolutely. And a lot of what Lori and I have been talking about tonight is about culture, right? It's not only the culture of government, but it is also the culture of your company, right? Like Lori said, having direct communication with the government client, and the government client is not just your CO. It is your program manager, your core, whoever your clients are, and never think that, oh, nobody there really matters. They're not the director, they're not the SCS, they don't matter. Believe me, a lot of people at lower levels have a lot of influence on acquisitions. So that's one thing. Make sure your people exemplify your values and culture of customer service, of compliance, because you can lose. I told a story on one of the previous nights about a company that lost a program manager position, which was a huge revenue generating position for them, because the program manager was looking at porn and kind of pedophile kinds of things on a government contractor, a government site and computer, and they had been monitoring him, and he was escorted out. When that happened, this company was the sub, and guess what? The prime said, "Oh, you're not trustworthy. We value our reputation with the government client. We are going to hire our own, or bring in our own program manager," and that was a revenue loss for them. So culture is extremely important. Don't think that you've gotten too big to listen. And if I can't, say enough, is when your people stop talking, you should be worried. They should be telling you what's going good. They should be identifying opportunities. Hey, I heard they need this. I see we could do this better. Those are the things you want to instill in your team, because when you make them part of your customer service outreach, part of your business development efforts, part of your opportunity identification efforts, you now don't have to hire one person to do all that, because the best people are the people who have the relationships, who are there day to day, and can see opportunities that a BD person would never know, can also help translate key unique value proposition when you're writing proposals. Bring those people in, make them part of the business development process, the capture process, and reward them. Those are the kinds of things. That's how you keep your workers and your staff vested, and that is all part of culture, right? And then please don't let a prime set the culture or change the culture for your organization. You know, being a prime or a sub is an important part of capacity and capability building. However, if that prime has a toxic environment and your people are under it, it's going to cause turnover, right? And what that means is you then got to spend more money, time hiring somebody else. So if your team tells you something's going on, something's not right, give them an environment where they can come tell you that, and that you take it seriously, and that you then don't think of the money, go, oh well, they didn't mean that, they didn't mean to, come on to you like that. Just, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal. You can be liable. So create a culture, whereas when you get the opportunity to win, and I'm going to tell this story. One of 27 business persons of the year was one of the vet biz ladies. Arlo Solutions, hashtag one to watch. They are, they got the secret sauce. Two women started a business, went to Bahamas on a weekend, because the COO's husband worked with the CEO and said, you and my wife ought to start a business. They went to the Bahamas on the weekend, came back with their business plan. They 4 years ago, when they came through my program, they had 5 employees. Now they have over 200. They are in the top 100 fastest veteran-owned businesses according to Inc. They're in Inc. 5000. They've been featured in Essence, Ebony, you name it, Washington Business Journal, all of that. But the bottom line that I'm telling you is, I went to one of their employee recognition events, and there were people during COVID who have been waiting 2 years to work for this company. Now, where do you find that? And it all has to do with culture. Okay. All has to do with culture. All has to do with profit sharing. It all has to do with making your key important people part of your team. They don't just have to be in leadership. So we're at 8:04. We're going to wrap it up. Go on and give some last words, sister in service, Lori. Have you all enjoyed it? If you've enjoyed it, I know some of you have been here 5 or 6 days. If you'll send me a DM, I'll get back with you. I really appreciate you all joining. This has been fun, and I may have to do it again, but it won't be next week. Next week we'll be back to Wednesday, 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you for joining again. I want to tell you that everything we've said here has nothing to do with the Department of Veteran Affairs and has just been our generosity of sharing our knowledge and insight with you. I'm so thankful for my sister, and I want you to make sure, even if you watch this after as a replay, please put your name, your business, location, product, service in there. If you know of resources, share those with us. Thank you, Brian, for doing that. Thank you all for joining. And Lori, go ahead and go and close us out, lady. I appreciate
Well,
you.
hey, it's been a great week. It's been a challenging week because Michelle done interrupted my nap time. Y'all know I'm of age. I have to get those naps when they come
Tell her to
down.
stop
So,
with her gorgeous self. Talk about she's
no.
of age.
So then we should get my brain all stimulated. Now I won't be able to go to sleep. No, I'm just joking. But I have really and thoroughly enjoyed myself. And Naya, go ahead and let Michelle know what you want because she owe you big. Because Naya has been with us all week long, and I want to give her that shout out. Hopefully the information was useful. We do appreciate you all coming out and joining us. And again, what we are doing is just coming out here and just sharing our experiences, sharing what we do know. And again, I have absolutely no problem being corrected on something because what I try to do is repeat something that I read in the book by the people who get to make the policies. So, as these aren't my Lori's quotes or things of that nature, this is verifiable information. So,
Amen.
really do appreciate this opportunity. Always appreciative of Michelle. She's such a gracious person and host, and I'm so appreciative that she allowed the group of us and others that meet regularly on Wednesdays to join her on her platform. So look forward to seeing you all next week. I'm again going to enjoy my weekend. I think the young lady may be through cleaning the house because I'm out here on the back porch taking in this Savannah nice summer, or is it pre-summer, spring evening. So it's a little cool out here, but it's good. It's pleasant. So the nature, I guess y'all can hear all the frogs and all those other critters,
It's
making all the kind
beautiful.
of noise in the background. So very excited to be a part of this right here. And again, thank you all. And if you have any questions, please, reach out, connect with me on LinkedIn. I don't take no
Yes.
exceptions to responding to questions.
Well, I do want to thank Lori. Can you believe out of all of the experts, quote unquote experts, that have been on this platform that join me weekly at Wednesday at 7 to 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, all come are not paid, not compensated, and I have never met any of them in person until about 2 weeks ago when I had to take some personal time. Lori, being the wing woman that she is, in the Air Force,
Woo!
they call her wing woman, wing man.
Yeah.
And that's where you have your buddy, your partner in the trenches. If something wrong, they're going to come take care of you, lift you up, carry you. And Lori drove up from Savannah to Virginia and spent some time with me and just encouraged me, supported me. We laughed, we cried, and she is my sister forever. I want you all to stand by because we're going to do some stuff in June. I'm going to put her on blast. We're going to do some stuff in June together, several things together. And y'all
Yes,
get
we
ready.
are.
Y'all get ready because y'all ain't gonna be able to see nothing like this. You put me and Lori together. Watch out, look out, world. We finna take over, and we know that the
Absolutely.
world is gonna be better because to whom much is given, much is required, and you reap what you sow, but not where you sow. We know whatever we sow, there's gonna be it's good seed because it's with pure heart and ministry, and we know that God gonna bless it and multiply it. And so with that, I do want to end and say thank you, my sister. I appreciate you. I can never stop saying that enough. You cannot give people their flowers enough while they're here. And I'm not a person that accepts help very much. So that's another reason why I have to say thank you. The last thing I want to say is thank you for joining us, LinkedIn fam, YouTube, Facebook. I never take it for granted that you decided to come spend some time with me and all these amazingly generous people. And you could be anywhere, anytime, doing anything else, but you decided that you would be right here. So we're thankful. So may God bless you. May He keep you. May He enlarge your territory, increase your influence, and guess what? Definitely build you more business opportunities and increase the dollar bottom line. I'm just saying, you can do more business, you can bless more people with some money. But may He enlarge your territory. May He keep you from evil because it's rough out there. And may He keep evil from you. With that, I want to say good night and blessings. And we'll see you on Wednesday. Thank
Good
you.
night,
Thank you so much.
everyone.
Good night,
Enjoy your
everyone.
weekend.
Enjoy your
Goodbye.
weekend. Bye.